Thank you. I'm now calling the Tuesday, October 21st, 2025 regular meeting of Los Altos Hills County Fire District Board of Commissioners to order. The time is 7:05 p.m. Please note we're conducting a hybrid meeting, which allows staff and members of the public to attend this meeting via virtual teleconference. In the event that there are technical problems that prevent remote public participation, I have the discretion to continue the meeting without remote public participation, provided that no board member is participating via teleconference. And that is the truth tonight. We do not have anyone participating that way. The hybrid meeting will be video recorded and posted on the district's website. Because we're video conferencing, we will follow a strict protocol for the benefit of the recording. I will indicate when commissioners, staff, presenters, and the public will provide comments. If you've called into the meeting and are not using a webcam, please state your name prior to providing your comment. If you're making public comments and have questions of the presenter or the commission, please address your questions to me, the board president, and I will respond or seek a response or hold the question for a future meeting. Please practice considerate video conferencing etiquette by muting your line when you're not speaking and limiting distracted behavior on camera. Okay, let's see. District Clerk Vargas, please conduct the roll call.
Good evening, commissioners. I will be conducting all roll call in the same order, so please remember your order to prepare for your vote. President Spreen?
Here.
Vice President McDonald?
Present.
Commissioner Kadambi? Commissioner Tonka?
Yeah.
Commissioner Tyson?
Here.
Commissioner Warren?
Here.
Okay, and we have 5 commissioners present. I'm sorry, I forgot to call Commissioner Basigi, and he's not here. So we have 5 out of 7 present. And for the benefit of the recording, I will also conduct a presenters, consultants, and staff roll call. Santa Clara County Fire Department Fire Chief Glass.
Present.
Or Deputy Fire Chief Glass, I apologize.
It's all good. Thank you.
Thank you. Spector and Company Financial Audit Consultant German.
I'm here. Thank you.
Thank you. Santa Clara County Fire Safe Council CEO Shallot. I think I saw him. Yeah, there he's there. But
It would help if I go off mute. Present.
yeah,
Thank you.
thank you. Municipal Resource Group Strategic Planning Consultant Scott. Okay. Community Education Risk Reduction Manager Gluhan.
Present.
Okay. Programs Planning Grants Manager Woods.
Present.
Thank you. Technical Analyst Project Manager Cronin.
Here.
Thank you. Project Operations Manager Russell.
Present.
Thank you. Field Manager Harmon.
Here.
General Analyst Georgie.
Present.
Technical Data Analyst Martinez.
Present.
Community Event Specialist Sachiva.
Present.
Administrative Specialist Revelar.
Present.
Project Specialist Risk Reduction King Rob.
Present.
Community Risk Reduction Specialist Stosnik. Okay. IHFR Specialist Nazarova, I think is here tonight. Finance Program Specialist 2 Corpus.
Present.
Thank you. Operations and Administrative Manager Fairman.
Present.
Okay. Finance and IT Manager Moriali.
Present.
General Manager Logan.
Present.
Deputy County Counsel Forbat.
Present.
Great. Presenters, consultants, and staff are accounted for.
Thank you very much. Moving on to item 2, Commission President remarks. First of all, I just want to send our thoughts out to Commissioner Basigi, who's not feeling well this evening. So we hope he is watching and or hoping getting some rest and getting well soon. Second, I have a little show and tell here, and just completely coincidentally to this meeting, we've had a number of things in the mail that are significant for us. The first one, the smaller one, everyone should be receiving, everyone in the district, another notice about HIZ meetings, and not yet.
Since Spring, it's a targeted mailing, so everybody won't receive it.
Okay, but anyway, there's still stuff going on here about HIZ postcards in the mail. I know a number of people got these, so I just want to people don't throw these away. Read them, look at them. It's part of the effort to continue our HIZ expansion, which you'll hear more about later today. So I just wanted to call that to attention. And I can't hold him back. But there he is. We have Commissioner Tyson holding up like Carol Merrill from the old game shows. This is the services guide, which you've heard a lot about. And I just want to, I've received some unsolicited comments, which I've passed on residents who are reading these. They're getting them and reading them, which is really what the best thing we could hope for. The worst thing we could hope for is it becomes, maybe it's so weighty that people are thinking, hey, this is something I should look at. This isn't something I should just toss away. And my neighbors one neighbor didn't even know I was on the commission till she was reading through this. And then that's how she contacted me and said, I saw you in here. And so, so people are reading this, and just hats off to everyone. And I encourage anyone in the public who, if you haven't got one of those, come talk to us and ask us about it. And for those of you who don't have them here, in fact, I think our staff member, Laura Georgie, who was one of the people who certainly got the ball over the end zone, as well as being one of the significant players in this. And there were a number of people, I know Anya, Sarah, Victoria, Laura, and maybe others were involved in this. So it's really something that staff deserves a hand on, and I encourage everyone to look at it. And it's a new.
I have two.
This has long been in the pipeline, and we're going to learn from it as to what people find interesting about it and useful about it. But we're really trying to get people to understand who we are, what we do. So.
The timing of this was just perfect because I have a neighborhood watch group that that I just sent out a note saying, here's Firewise. And by the way, look at this thing on page 12 is the explanation. Page 13 is the map. And so you can understand. So it ties in with something I'm doing.
Yeah, so thank you to everybody, and appreciate all the efforts for it. And I'm glad we're getting such great feedback on it already. Okay, moving on to item 3, public comment. Persons wishing to address the commission on any subject not on the agenda may do so now. Please note, however, the commission is not able to undertake extended discussion or action tonight on items not on the agenda. Items may be referred to staff for appropriate action, which may include placement on the next available agenda. District policy is to limit testimony to 3 minutes per speaker. I see we have a public comment here. You may proceed.
Thank you. Alan Epstein. I live in the district. Just like to look forward to comments, hear more about what's happening with the N5 sensors. I was surprised that there hasn't been any discussion about the Santa Clara County Fire Department contract, which automatically renews for another 10 years in just 75 days. And I haven't heard anything more about the new fire station. I believe there's a contract supposedly being put in place with regards to the design of the new fire station. Didn't see it on the agenda. Just looking forward to hearing more about those subjects. Thank you.
Great. Appreciate we're all interested in that. And those are all items that will be coming up in the future. So thank you. Any online requests or public comments?
Yes, we have one from Seth Shallett.
Oh, great.
Good evening, commissioners and attendees. I just wanted to announce that next month, November 18th, which will be the last Fire Safe Council board meeting of the year, I've got a terrific presentation by Kate Wilkin, who is the associate professor of fire ecology at San Jose State. And she's done a pretty detailed study on the efficacy of HIZs in the wildland urban interface, and the challenges and problems with doing HIZs correctly. And I just wanted to invite all Los Altos Hills commissioners and residents to attend that meeting in person, November 18th, starting at 1:30, and we will send an email out to your team. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. That's very interesting. Appreciate it. Any other comments?
I don't see any.
Great. Thank you. Moving on to item 4, agenda amendments and changes. Any comments from staff on this item? Any changes needed?
Not for me. No.
Any commissioners like to make any changes? Not expecting any in that case. We'll move on to item 5, the consent calendar. Any comments from staff on consent calendar items? Seeing no comments there. Any questions from the commission on any of the items on the consent calendar? Seeing none, I will now entertain a motion. Will the commissioner making the motion and the commissioner seconding the motion please state your names?
So move Tonka.
Thank you.
McDonald seconds.
Thank you. This is open for discussion. Any discussion from the commission? Seeing none. Any public comments on these items? I see one approaching.
Alan Epstein. There's items 5B and C, which are renewals of contracts with Link Technology and Freyr. Neither of the contracts have any changes in their compensation. This is the 6th renewal for Lynx and the 9th renewal for Freyr. I just wonder if any of these contracts are ever going to be put out for competitive bidding again. And then with regards to 5GII, that's the project planning one for the I-280 schedule. If I'm understanding the schedule correctly, it looks like the actual work won't start until FY27. I was just wanting to see if that's correct. Thank you.
As for the first ones, we're actually pleased that our contracts are being renewed with the same pricing going forward. So we're actually quite excited about that. And we stay very much in line with the county on making sure that all our contracts are done and bid in the right periods and so forth. As the 280 stuff, we'll report. We have reports on 280, and I don't know. I can't answer that question, but we'll.
Any could.
We'll do that later. We'll see what comes up. Let's move on to. Let's no other comments. Let's vote.
Okay, excuse me. President Spreen,
Yes.
Vice President McDonald,
Yes.
Commissioner Tonka,
Yes.
Commissioner Tyson,
Yes.
Commissioner Warren.
Yes.
Okay, and the motion passes 5-0 with 2 absent.
Thank you. Moving on to item 6, the fire chief report. Item 6A is the monthly report for September 2025, and 6B is the September report for Station 8. Assistant Fire Chief Glass, you could provide those reports for us.
Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you, Corey, for bringing that up. Good evening, President Spreen, members of the commission. Brian Glass, Deputy Fire Chief of Santa Clara County Fire Department. Happy to be here tonight to present the report out for the month of September. We can go ahead and cruise through to the second page, please. There we go. Third page, actually. Appreciate that. 80 calls for service this past month. Pretty standard breakdown. 47 medical calls, right in there at that 60% mark. It's actually 58.8. This is consistent. You kind of see we hover between on the low, like 58 to the high of about 115 over that 3-year period. We're right on track for 2025, slotting in there at 752 calls for service in the district. We'll go ahead and move to the next page. Kind of talking about the call processing, turnout, reflex time. Again, I just want to call your attention to the top row of dials. That is our processing time for fire-related emergencies within Los Altos Hills County Fire District. You can tell by call processing time slightly longer than our EMS, which is the dial below. Very quick with the EMS triaging of those calls. We try to get the wheels rolling very fast. The call processing takes a little bit longer when we're processing for a fire because we're trying to ascertain what specifically is on fire, where it's located, and any amplifying information. Just a reminder on that call processing, as soon as we verify type and location, we're pre-alerting the stations to get them rolling. Again, we're trying to minimize the amount of total reflex time from activation of 911 to arrival of a fire apparatus at scene. Turnout time's looking really good, 1 minute to 26 seconds for EMS and 1:36 for fire-related calls, for a total reflex time for fire of 9:10 and for EMS 7:19. We then have it further broke down by urban and rural, and those are basically based on population densities. Again, the only one that we're really looking for is 7 minutes 59 seconds in the total reflex urban time frame, and you can see we're below that at 7 minutes and 6 seconds. That's the 4th dial on the bottom to the right. You can kind of see which apparatus are responding to calls, primarily Rescue 74, Engine 76 coming out of the Loyola Fire Station, followed by 75 out of Los Altos. Others, that's going to be Palo Alto, Mountain View, or some other apparatus that might have been in the area for training that's picking up calls. And then, of course, Cupertino to the south, Engine 71, and then 374 when it's staffed at Station 8. I'm not going to try to touch the attendees at the public ed events. I still think we have an anomaly there. I'll just say we had 2 programs, and we'll leave it at that. I will follow up with the general manager on clarifying the community education and outreach. With that, we'll move to the map. Again, looking at the map, the distribution of the calls, remember the red dots are the fires, and that's as they are dispatched. So when they come in from 911, says something, I see smoke, it could be a fire, it gets a red dot. When we arrive at scene, it might not actually be on fire. It may have been steam, it may have been a pot on the stove. Again, it gets coded on this map for what the person, when they activate 911, says on the phone, not what we actually see. So again, I'm happy to report no significant fires or incidents. And again, that's back on the cover page. But again, just want to show you where we did have some incidents. There was one fire, 1 foot by 2 foot. It was potentially arson. We are investigating it, and that's all I'm able to share on that today. Again, 1 foot by 2 foot, potentially started by an individual, quickly extinguished by fire crews, and investigated by our duty investigator and our partnership with Campbell PD, our arson investigators. With that, I'll pause and I'll take any questions that the council may have.
Any comments?
I have a comment. Oh, go ahead.
No,
Oh.
I'm good. Okay.
Oh,
I just had a comment just for
sorry,
Yeah.
a comment for public education purposes. The turnout times, you should recognize that for a structure type response, a structure fire, it takes a little bit longer because the firefighters are putting on their structural firefighting gear. Whereas a medical call, they can just go in their day uniform. Or for a vehicle accident, they're required to wear their structural firefighting gear to protect them from broken glass and metal. So just help people understand some of the turnout times. They could be a little bit longer for structure or car accidents. And that's all what I wanted to share.
Interesting. Yeah, thank you. All right. Any public comment on this report? Yes, we have one.
Alan Epstein, I had a conversation with Chief Bill Murphy. Could you please put the chart back up, if you would? As you know, I asked at the last meeting the difference between the total response time, total reflex time, and the figures over to the right. I had an opportunity to talk with Operations Chief Bill Murphy and explain what the difference is. I think you might be interested in knowing. The numbers on the right don't represent total reflex times. The number on the right don't really represent response times. According to Chief Murphy, what they actually represent are transit times. So that's the time from when the fire apparatus leaves the station to when it arrives at the location. So the numbers on the right aren't comparable to the numbers on the left. So just wanted you to know what I found out. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Okay, moving on to Station 8 report.
Okay, thanks for pulling that up, Corey. We had a total of 14 responses during the month of September. During that month, the Santa Clara County Fire Department is staffing Station 8 for the Palo Alto Fire Department. Again, you can see the breakdown of calls in front of you there and I'm happy to take any questions on those specific responses. I don't have a lot of information about them. I will say that in the month of October, kind of a sneak peek for what you're going to see at next meeting, we did suspend Station 8 staffing. That was in conjunction with Palo Alto, a decision that was made and ran through the general manager. That was suspended on October 16th due to the significant wetting rain that fell over the district at that time. We are continuing to monitor the weather, and if need be, we can upstaff that, and we will make notifications to the general manager if we do that. Again, all in all, Palo Alto Station 8 staffing, thanks to the Los Altos Hills County Fire District, has been a huge success, and looking forward to seeing where that goes in the future. I have two other updates if there's no questions on the Station 8.
Nope. See? Nope. Go right ahead.
Okay, just wanted to provide a brief update. I do have some information on water tender 76. It has been lost in the apparatus manufacturing slowdown. Again, there's a lot of information out there. You can search on the internet as it relates to fire engine conglomerates buying up each other and potentially jacking up the rates and extending the delivery times of fire apparatus. Water tender 76 was caught up in that. They had a Senate hearing bringing some of these larger fire engine manufacturers before members of the Senate and Congress to discuss these issues. Water tender 76 is now slated for delivery June of 2026, and then we'll need probably a month or so to upfit it with tools and equipment and radios before we press it into service. I'm sure we'll continue to provide more frequent and relevant updates to the commissioners as we have more information, and I will forward a recent photo that I received of the chassis to the general manager for distribution to all of you. I also have an update on Truck 74. Truck 74 was not caught up in that slowdown, and it is on schedule right now to be finished July of 2026. So I'm hoping by the middle of summer we should have those apparatus available and some really complete photos to share with all of you. Happy to take any questions on the apparatus if you have any.
Chief Glass, are you going to have a push-in ceremony for the new truck when it arrives?
You know what? I think that's definitely in order.
Thank you.
And we'll make sure invitations go out through the general manager.
George?
Chief, you already answered my question. I was looking outside and the little grass growing, and you've answered that. I think you said October 16th. So I don't think we can ever really breathe a sigh of relief, but it's enough to help in terms of this fall, at least for a while. And then just a little shout out for your crew for showing up at the Touch a Truck event at Gardner Bullis School. I was so happy to have my 2.5-year-old grandson visiting from Colorado, and he touched all the trucks. And I'm glad that you guys were there too.
Thank you so much, Commissioner.
Thank you for support. It's really good news about the trucks, just to have them scheduled. That's just great news. So thank you very much. Any public comment on that? Or seeing none, we will proceed. Thank you, sir.
Thank you
Wait
all.
one sec. There's a hand up and I'm not
Oh, there's a
seeing
hand
it
up?
though. Whose hand is up? I guess not. Okay, never mind.
Great. Okay, in that case, we will move on to item 7, which is the Home Ignition Zone Assessment and Rebate Program. This will be Project Operations Manager Russell providing us a report.
Good evening, commissioners, staff, and public. It is my honor to stand in front of you this evening to request that we extend eligibility on our HIZ assessment and rebate program. And I want to talk through the background on what we are currently doing, what we are asking to change, and why we're asking to change that. So first, what I'm asking for this evening, or what we are all asking, is to extend our rebate eligibility period from 6 months currently. So from the point that the resident receives the assessment to the point that they request their rebate, we've given them 6 months. So we would like to expand that to 2 years, and I'll explain why. So first, a little bit about the background of why we chose 6 months. When, as you know, the program started in 2022 as a pilot program, and we were fairly conservative because we wanted to see what the impact would be, how many people would be requesting HIZs, and make sure we had the staff and the capability to process all those requests. And the 6 months was sort of twofold. One, we wanted to really incentivize our residents to act quickly. I think we were worried the vegetation would change. That was one of the motivating factors there, or that their report would be out of date if they didn't actually act quickly. And so those were the main driving factors. The other one was we were concerned that we would have a windfall of requests all at once and that we wouldn't be able to handle those. So now we have a lot more data. We have a lot more information. We all know we've had a lot of interest in HIZs this year. And so fortunately, we are asking for feedback from our residents all the time. And we're talking amongst ourselves, what's working, what's not working. This is all part of our continuous improvement of this program, all of our programs, all of our projects. We're always trying to evaluate, reflect, and improve our programs. So this was one item that came up. Residents requested to have a longer period of time to be able to act on that report. And the reason being is it's sometimes difficult to get a licensed service provider. So that might actually delay their ability to do it in 6 months. Sometimes it's just planning or life gets in the way. And then basically they would have to have another assessment conducted in order to participate if it timed out in that 6 months. We also found that the report, once we would go out as assessors, we would go out, we would reassess, and we really would find that the material was still very relevant, that the report was still really relevant. So by changing this, we're giving more flexibility for our residents. We've heard what they've requested. And I think the concerns that we had, we realize are really not warranted to continue forward with the 6 months. The 2 years gives a resident an opportunity to actually participate in the rebate program twice if they, for each calendar year. So it'd be, they'd be eligible for 2 years on each report. Now, that said, if a resident was like, I finished, I did everything, can I get another HIZ? Of course, definitely. So they're not limited to one every 2 years. That said, they can, you know, they have more time to work on that HIZ. So I think it impacts the program, in terms of, like I said, it's more flexibility for our residents. They can still do the work. And I think it positively also impacts staff in that they're not going out and doing an HIZ that's unnecessary. So with that, I just want to say thank you for hearing the request. I also would like to thank Commissioner Konami. Last month, you asked that we add on the website some kind of link to the report so you could go in and find your report that way. We added that. So thank you for your feedback. It's, you know, one of many, and I won't bore you all with the many improvements we've made. I will probably lean into that when we give our semi-annual reports, but there's been a lot of really positive changes all along the way that I think is improving the process for our residents. So any questions?
George?
Yes, thank you for the written report. It was very clear. I was excited to read it. I thought it made a lot of sense, and your presentation further reinforced that. I'm wondering, the fact that now people can go into 2 calendar years, I'm just wondering, have we thought about the level of $3,000 and increasing that? Because I know people say that it's costs quite a bit to get work done, and trees can be way over that. Yeah, just a given tree. So
Yes.
have we talked about that?
We have talked about that. And we feel right now we still want to be conservative in terms of the budget, and we're going to evaluate the budget for 2026, 2027, the impact on this change, and then potentially, you know, with that more data even, then we can decide if we are able to extend that amount. But that's always in conversation.
Okay.
Do you have an amount you think?
I'd bump it to
$1
5.
million?
Yes.
I'd bump it to 5 now.
Okay. Well, it's actually something, I mean, the reason I wanted to ask that number is because with budget talks coming up, just to hear what general levels we're comfortable with and that kind of thing is a good number to have out there. So would that be, it's per year?
Correct.
Okay.
So every year,
Okay.
these
Great.
residents can participate every year. So that's what we tell them, you know, do a certain amount of work each year. I think it encourages that whole concept of like, this is not a sprint, this is an ultra marathon, and just continue to do the work. And vegetation does grow back eventually, especially tree work and those items. But thank you for that question. We have definitely discussed.
Yeah, so can we get on a future agenda item that agendized to increase that?
Okay. Note taken.
Thank you.
Mhm. Any other comments here? Please.
Just wanted to say this is great. Big kudos to everyone, general manager and team, amazing team, so amazing general manager, so great job. For the HIZ, thank you so much for doing what you do. That's a lot of TCS work. Just because as of now, if I'm not mistaken, we have to submit everything in one go, right?
Correct.
So is there a way that it can be submitted in portions so that way people don't wait for that one go moment and let the year pass by?
The reason why we do that is there is a lot of time that you can imagine. The request goes through a review panel, then it goes to the Fire Safe Council, then it goes to Corey, and then Corey sends the final okay back to the Fire Safe Council. And then there's still even some time. So it takes already a lot of time to process because we just have to do the due diligence, and these are public funds. So we're very responsible with that process. And so that is the main reason, is just each time we request, we are going to an online portal. I will say, I don't know if this will, kind of answer that. So when the online portal will go live January 2026. And what's nice about that is you can start your application and you can upload your invoice. You can do your after photos. You can leave it. You can come back, upload some more. But in terms of that number and so forth, we do ask for one time that you actually say, okay, I'm ready to process. But thank you for that question.
Okay, great. I just want to say that thank you for the support, because I think there's so much interest and understanding now about the HIZ program. I want people to see that we are continuously improving it and looking for ways to make it more amenable to all the district residents. So thank you for that. Now, this is a request for a motion And I would entertain a motion to approve the extension of the rebate eligibility deadline for the HSE program from 6 months from the date of assessment to 2 years, effective January 2026, and as administered by the general manager or designee. I would like a motion and second.
Warren moves to approve 7A.
Tyson seconds.
Thank you very much. Any discussion from the commission? Don't see any. Any public comment on this item?
I see
Seeing
none.
none, let's have a roll call.
Okay. President Spreen,
Yes.
Vice President McDonald,
Yes.
Commissioner Kadambi, Commissioner Tonka, Commissioner Tyson,
Yes.
Commissioner Warren.
Yes.
Okay, and the motion passes 6-0 with 1 absent.
Thank you very much. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Moving on to item 8. Item 8A is to receive a presentation of the fiscal year 25 draft audited annual financial report. General Manager Logan, if you'll please introduce the item.
Thank you very much, President Spreen and commissioners, staff and public. I'd like to take a moment just to say that this is a very important presentation, as you can well imagine, of the district's audit and financial report. So I'd like to introduce Finance Manager Russ Moriali, and he'll then make the introductions and present for his report. Thank you, Russ.
Thank you, General Manager Logan. Vice President Spreen, Vice President McDonald, thank you for this opportunity to present the audit. We are very pleased to present the audit this evening. There'll be 3 presenters, but we'll try to make it fairly quick. I will essentially provide an overview of the audit with a focus on operational results. And then after this, I will introduce our audit partner with Vector and Company, Scott German, and he will present he'll be speaking to you directly and speaking to the public as to how the audit went. So that's the lineup tonight, this evening. We will end with Serena, who will also present the 10-year statistical section, which has now been appended to the audit. It's an unaudited document, but at the same time, we've attached it to the document because it's gaining in importance as it evolves. And with your materials, thank you, Corey. Okay, and next slide, please. So again, as I just mentioned, I'll be presenting an executive summary of the audit this evening and introducing Scott German in just a few moments. And he's in the Zoom ethos right now, and he's listening to us, and will be with us in just momentarily. Next slide, please. The action tonight is to receive the presentation by the staff and by the audit partner. It's also to approve the draft. We're presenting it to you this evening in draft format just by chance if there's any comments made. And at the same time, receive informational presentation of the 10-year statistical section. We had a wonderful meeting with Commissioner Kadambi on October 14th. Thank you so much. And that was the ad hoc committee that we had on the audit. It was about an hour-and-a-half meeting, possibly 2 hours. A lot of great questions being forwarded by the commissioner, and a wonderful presentation by the audit partner as well. I believe, Commissioner Kandabi, we answered all your questions, and Commissioner Kandabi also approved this to be moved forward to this body this evening. So thank you so much, Commissioner Kandabi, for all the insight and the input that evening as well. Thank you so much. The next slide, please. So as you look at the audit package, it's a large document. It's nearly 50 pages long. But I just wanted to point out for the benefit of the commission and the benefit of the public, the key sections of that document. There's the auditor's opinion, but is essentially our report card. It's a 2 or 3 page document, but essentially is a report card from the audit. And keep in mind, when the public reads this is an independent view of our financials. There's a management discussion analysis, which is essentially an executive summary. It's much like the budget summary that you see, but this is focusing on the audit results. There's a government-wide financial statements, which are financial statements crafted much like private industry with full accrual accounting. And there's fund accounting statements in section 4, which really speaks to more of a near cash modified accrual basis of accounting as well. There's section 5, which are notes to the financial statements, very important because they outline key information that you want to know about the audit and you want to know about our financial status. There's section 6, which I would call the budget to actual report. It essentially is a one-page budget to actual presentation to let you know how we actually did compared to budget. And there's a report by the auditor on our internal controls. Those are all the key reports as well. Unaudited, but attached, there's a statistical section, which we have started to prepare as we develop our 10-year forecasts. We're also preparing a 10-year statistical section that looks 10 years backward and really gives us a sense of trends over the years. So those are the key sections of the audit that you'll see in your packet this evening. And next slide, please. I won't take the auditor's thunder away from him, but essentially, I'm so pleased to report that we have a clean audit this year, a clean audit with no exceptions, no comments, and no findings, which is again a very high mark for the district. I want to thank all of our staff, starting with Corey, the entire finance team, Serena, Jane, and all of the staff members, because we cannot have achieved a good audit without good documentation and follow through on policy all year long. So when you look at the audit, unlike the budget looks forward and projects, the audit is actually the facts. This is what actually happened during the year. It's a compilation of everything we've spent, everything we've received, and how we compared to budget as well. But again, thank you for all the staff members for all the work, and Corey for all your great work on the financial consultant side of things to keep things in order. Next slide, please. Operationally, I really, from my perspective, you can look at numbers, but there's really some key operational line items to look at here. First of all, the audit, again, furthers the strategic plan, just like the budget does. But what you'll find here, too, that you'll see that this particular year, we executed an additional contract for $2.3 million for one specialized fire apparatus truck. You won't see that in terms of expenditure because we did not pay for it yet. It'll be paid in the future. But what you will see is that has moved into increasing our reserve fund commitments. So you'll see that dramatic change in our reserve fund commitments when you look at the audit because of that $2.3 million that was contracted with Central Fire this year. So much to report on the operations. IHFR, defensible space brush chipping, $873,000. That's an increase of since 2022, which I took as a peg year, given that was post-COVID and the start of all the increase in staffing. Since 2022, that program has increased a dramatic amount, nearly 80%. So it's an amazing increase in progress. You can also see the same thing when you look at the evacuation routes, a 32% increase over year to year. And nearly doubled since 2022. So as you look at our expenditure patterns, of course, there's a gap between budget and actual. But if you look at our expenditure patterns over the year, you'll see that they're going in the right direction. And with the resources that have been brought onto the table, mostly thank you to this commission for allowing us those resources. You're seeing that the dollars being put into the community have increased quite substantially. And that's what the audit shows you when you look at it on a trend analysis basis. And of course, the HIZ program, which Paige just spoke about, you can see also that increase being reflected in this audit, and I suspect it'll be even bigger next year as well. Next page, please. Of course, we continued with the Palo Alto additional high fire season funding. This year, it reached $620,000. We continue the maintenance on our hydrants, and we had hirings this year. I can say with this audit report, we're very pleased to say we're nearly at full staffing. And you'll see as we compile the budget, I think we are up to 13 positions with 13.5 FTEs. So essentially, we've talked about it for 2 or 3 cycles, but we are there. And staffing is almost completely full. And so thank you again for that. And it's reflected in the numbers, and it will be reflected in the numbers even more next year. Next slide, please. You will see in this budget the first real indication of the expenditures for health benefits, for employee benefits, particularly the health reimbursement account. You don't see the impact of the deferred compensation plans yet, but those have kicked in 2 or 3 months ago. And so in the next audit year, you will see the full impact of the health reimbursement accounts and the full impact of the deferred compensation plans as well. And besides that, we've funded All staff have their district technology, and thank you for the purchase of our vehicles. This audit reflects the purchase of the 2 F-150 field trucks, which I had the pleasure of driving in today, thanks to Ryan Cronin, as we delivered some packages from El Monte to another location. So thank you. Next slide, please. In terms of budget highlights, it was obviously a positive year from a financial standpoint. We have a surplus. It equals about $4.7 million. It's less than last year. But at the same time, we clearly have maintained that strong financial presence. Revenues came in at about 6% from year to year, and they exceeded our estimates by about 9%. If you look at the audit, the entirety of the year, we're at 75% capacity level on staffing. If you look at us as of today, we're essentially almost fully filled on all positions. If you look at budget to actual, you'll see that we did have, again, a large gap between budget to actual as well. And this has to do a lot to do with large dollar projects that have not yet been expended this particular year. In particular, if you look at the variances between budget to actual, has to do position vacancies and contingencies. The fire season contingencies, we always allow fire season contingencies even over and above what we put in Palo Alto. That's about a $400,000 difference. Of course, we have I-280 in the budget, and of course, that has not been expended yet as well. So that's a difference. Other programs and projects and planning and contingencies, about $1.4 million. And in terms of what else has happened on this particular budget, again, the $2.3 million increase in commitment reserves because of the contract for the truck. Next slide, please. Lastly, there is a noticeable change. This is the first year, as we mentioned during our budget discussions, this is the very first year, if you look at the budget schedule, that you'll see original budget and you'll see final budget. This is the very first year that, in coordination with the county, they allowed us to roll forward dollars from the prior year to this year. So what that does is the budget as adopted was increased in its final form by approximately $4 million. Again, that's mostly because of the fire trucks and the fire study and those plans. So what you'll see is it widens the variance between budget to actual. We talked to the county in the past about this possibility of a capital improvement fund. We're not quite there yet. They've allowed us to have a new cost center, but this gives further credence to the fact that as you look at these roll forwards and these large dollar projects, of course, parsing those out is going to be important. So when you look at the budget to actual this year, you'll see the impact of those roll forwards relative to the original budget as well. And last slide. And here is, in essence, the fund balances as of the end of the year. And you can see in particular, the largest change here this year is the fire apparatus commitment going from $1,956,000 to $4,256,000. And our commitments going from $15,956,000 to $18,256,000. And then if you look at the overall change in fund balance, which is in essence is your surplus, that's $4.5 million. That, in essence, is the checkbook as of the end of the year. A really great question came up from Commissioner Kondabi when we spoke about this in particular, and we talked about, well, what does this mean in terms of these fund balances? What does it mean going forward as you look at these? And clearly, as we look at our 10-year forecasts, which we are building at this time, looking at a fund balance like this, then the question is, how does that play into future plans? And there's quite a few items in the future that we're looking at: the possibility of a new fire facility, the possibility of staffing a new fire facility. Of course, we have the ultimate expenditure of potentially $6 million on the I-280, which is coming down the pike. And then, of course, there's other unknowns coming down the pike here that we are planning for. So as my response to Commissioner Kondabi is, we're well positioned. But if you look at this over 10 years, we're well positioned to forecast those items and plan for them as they come due, especially as they're unknown. So that, in essence, I think is the last slide, Corey. And with that, I will introduce Scott German. And President Serena, I'd leave it up to you if you want to take questions from me now or wait to the end when Scott is done.
Let's take questions now if anyone has any comments, because it's been really good material. Any comments?
Just Thank you for the nice presentation.
Thank you.
Excellent. Okay. Any public comments up to this point?
Alan Epstein, I live in the district. I sent some comments on the audit report to Russ earlier today. I think the report looks very good. There are a few suggestions I made. There's a couple corrections that I suggested. I just want to bring to the attention of the commissioners once again that there was a very substantial difference between the budget to actual numbers. Over $4 million difference between the budget and actual numbers, and this has been a consistent issue every single year. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Great.
And with that, if we're ready, I will introduce Scott German, the partner in charge with Fector and Company. It's all yours, Scott.
Great. Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you for having me today. Let's get right into it. So first, we got some required communications that, were, like they said, required. We're supposed to tell you about our responsibilities, our scope, our timing, and observations made during the audit. What is an audit? Why do we, what is this thing called? Financial statement audit is basically us coming in and reviewing supporting documentation assertions to determine if the financial statements reflect fairly the financial position and results of operations of the district. Remember, management and you folks as the board are responsible for the fair and accurate presentation and establishing systems and policies to achieve that goal. Your responsibilities include selection of accounting policies. To be fair, most of the accounting policies get into place and stay there for a while. This year, we had one new accounting policy that we'll speak about later, but there's not like every year you have to review these. You should review the financial statements and make sure that the policies that are in place are what you anticipate or thought they would be. Make sure the financial statements are fairly presented and accurate. If you see something that doesn't jive with what you understand based on your knowledge of the district, you need to tell us so that we can research it and make sure that there's not something that needs to be addressed. Implementation of system and internal controls. Your district has one of the top-notch systems of internal controls that we encountered during the year. We enjoy looking at a good set of internal controls. Your review of the financial statements on a monthly basis, asking questions, is a key component of that. Remember, you and the management and the commission have the full responsibility for the financial statement presentation and accuracy. Accounting policies summarized in note 2. Some are the standard for all special districts, basis of presentation, how property taxes are collected, equity classifications. Specific to the district, capital asset capitalization and depreciation policy. I remember last year we added the fire hydrants to the asset schedule, which increased the amount. This year, there was just normal operational additions. Our responsibility, we're supposed to form an opinion based on what we see. Make sure that it's in accordance with the required framework and that they're prepared and accurate in all material respects. Hiring us as auditors does not relieve the board of their responsibilities. And remember, an audit only provides reasonable assurance, not absolute assurance on the accuracy of the financial statements. Absolute assurance would require that we basically redo all the activity that everybody does throughout the year. And there is no auditor that wants to do that. I always say that my fee for that is $2 million. This year, I raised it to $3 million. Difficulties encountered, none. Corrected misstatements, none. Disagreements with management, none. So one thing on the corrected misstatements, there was some audit adjustments, or adjustments made during the audit, but those were primarily information that was provided to us by management, so we don't call those misstatements. Consultation with other accountants, other findings, issues, and other matters, none to report. Now let's get into the meat of this. Independent auditors report. We audited the basic financial statements and footnotes. We did not audit the MD&A, the budget versus actual, and the statistical information. Now, even though we didn't audit those, what we did do is review them in conjunction with the portions that we audited and made sure that there was nothing that was unusual or in conflict with what we had seen in the financial statements. Base for opinion, we audited in accordance with government audit standards. What that means is we're required to take additional continuing education. We review the internal control system, and there's some other requirements as far as reporting that we have, which is why in this report you have the independent auditors report at the front and then the internal control report at the back. We're required to be independent, and there's more independence requirements. They're more specific. Additional continuing education, additional internal control, and additional communications, part of which we're doing right now. And then last, we have to look to make sure that you'll be around for at least one more year. And based on everything we can see, I don't see that as an issue. Other reporting, like I said, at the back, we've got the internal control under government audit standards. And in the other information, there's a statistical section that'll be discussed a little later. What this is going for is to the annual comprehensive financial report that you folks are aiming for in the future. Some of the highlights: net position, we're up to 53.5 million. Remember, statement of net position, this is the long-term assets and long-term liabilities. So net position equals assets minus liabilities. Governmental funds, this removes all the long-term assets, long-term liabilities to give us a fund balance of 48 million. So you can see there's a little difference. What that is primarily this $49 million or $4.9 million of capital assets. Statement of activities, change in net position, which is essentially your net income, 4.5 million. And statement of revenues, expenditures, this is the current basis, again, 4.5 million. And the reason we have that slight difference is here we have depreciation expense on the long-term assets and capital outlay on the short-term basis. Those two basically net out. Notes of the financial statements, these are more information, more details about the information on the financial statements. Control issues, good, like I said, good controls in place. Your oversight is key to that. And, with that, thank you. It was a pleasure working with your staff, and I'll take any questions if you have them.
Any questions from commissioners? No. I mean, this is an important task for us because we are responsible for spending our residents' money well, and this is the way we assure that we've done that. So thank you very much for that.
Yeah, President Spreen, I also wanted to thank Scott. The audit started in earnest about 3.5 months ago, and their team was just superb in terms of timing, communication, keeping us on task, and really they met every deadline that was out there for us to meet. In fact, I'm happy to say that we were essentially done with the audit about 2.5 weeks, 3 weeks in advance, which is unheard of. So given the amount of work that's involved. So I really want to thank you, Scott, and your team. He has a stellar team. It was really quite a great project this year.
Excellent.
Thank you. And lastly, I think we have Serena just to give a quick update on the 10-year, correct?
Actually, that's first we will approve the AFR, then we'll go to Serena.
Okay. Let's see, where is this? We need to entertain a motion. This is to approve the fiscal year 25 audited financial report for submission to the county controller treasurer department. We'll need a motion in a second.
Warren moves to approve 8B.
Thank you. Any discussion? I'm expecting any public comments on that motion? In that case, let's vote.
Okay. President Spreen,
Yes.
Vice President McDonald,
Yes.
Commissioner Kadambi, Commissioner Tonka,
Yes.
Commissioner Tyson,
Yes.
Commissioner Warren.
Yes.
And the motion passes 6-0 with 1 absent.
Thank you very much. Moving on to item 8C, which is receiving the informational presentation on the 10-year statistical section.
Tongue twister.
I was just gonna say.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Corey.
Statistical.
Good evening, President Spring, Commissioner, staff, and public. So after you heard from Russ and the auditor, Scott, I'm just gonna touch base on a couple of the statistical section. So I won't go through every single page. So Corey, could next page. So here is just the, I don't know, can you guys see the document? Very small. Thanks, Corey. Okay, so here is the 10-year for the net assets. And as you could see, as Russ mentioned and as Scott mentioned, it has grown over the 10-year fiscal year. And so we are at the 53 million for the net assets. And, you know, the statistical section is just a snapshot of 10 years, so you could better plan for projects and programs for future years. Next slide. Sorry, Corey, about that. So this is the property tax again, net assets. Next slide, Corey. As Russ mentioned, the committed funds, and over time, you could see how it's grown over the 10-year period. You know, it started at 11 million, now we're at 48 million. So it's grown tremendously, but this is good for us to plan for our future fire facility and our fire apparatus funding. Next slide, Corey. This is just our governmental funds, revenues versus expenditures over the 10-year period. As you can see, it's growing both in revenues and expenditures. A lot of work is being done. So next slide, Corey. Next slide, Corey. Next slide, Corey. Next slide. This is, I pointed out when we had our ad hoc meeting on the 14th that the district has grown tremendously. I mean, in 2018, the general manager was hired, and in 24-25, we're up to 13 and a half employees. I mean, that's a feat in itself. And with all the work that we are doing, we are growing as we see in a short amount of time, but also a lot of work is being done. That's the end of my statistical section. If you have any questions.
Any comments or questions? See, George?
Oh, you said comments. Okay, great. You know, I joined the commission in early 2015 and I showed up and I thought, oh my gosh, we're running a deficit. We had the year before and we did that year too. And so it's, if you see, it's on those sheets she just showed as far back as it goes. And so I thought that has changed.
Yeah.
There, that's my comment.
Anything else?
I will mention that our plans are in discussion with General Manager Logan that within the next 1 or 2 or 3 months, we will be coming back to this commission with a presentation of a 10-year forecast. Then again, takes us 10 years and then projects some what ifs and looks forward and how are those funds going to be used. So that's one of the discussions that we will bring back to the table.
Yeah, we're really looking forward to that. Okay, great. Any other comments on that? Seeing none, we will move on to item 9, which is the fiscal year 27 budget update. Financial consultant Vargas, could you please provide us an update?
Yes, thank you, President Spreen and Commissioners. So in case you missed it, hidden among the consent calendar on 5D, we had a change to our ad hoc budget subcommittee members. Vice President McDonald has joined the ranks along with President Spreen and Commissioner Kadambi. So we have 3 members. And this item is just, I'm going to, I touched base with all 3 of them earlier today. And so we're tentatively scheduled to have the community meeting for the ad hoc fiscal year 27 budget subcommittee November 12th, which is a Wednesday at 7:00 p.m. And we're looking, since I just coordinated today, we're going to most likely have it in the back room. I just need to double check with the town, but from my initial looking on their website, they seem to be free at that time. So I will keep you informed. Now this, because it's an ad hoc meeting, the agenda and the agenda packet items do not get posted on our website with the regular commission items. They go in the finance section, but we will do what we did last year, which is on the front page. There'll be like a little box that announces to the public and links to the items. So we're being clear to that because we want everyone from the public to join. And
Great.
that is my report.
Thank you very much. Any questions or comments on that? I know November 12th, we will be there. Thank you so much. Okay, moving on to item 10. Actually, any public comments on that? I wouldn't expect it, but I just want to make sure I asked. Item 10 is going to be an update to the monthly financial reporting package. This is, we're back again with Finance and IT Manager Morale.
Yes, President Spreen, Vice President McDonald, thank you again. What a segue from the audit. We're very pleased. Typically, this report is on consent. But as you know, over the past year, we've updated our systems. We've updated our payroll system in particular, and I can't tell you how much we're enjoying that payroll update internally. It's doing a lot for us. And then we've updated to the cloud. I'm not sure if I reported this, but 3-4 months ago, we updated over 18 years. Is that correct, Corey?
From, I believe, the year 2001.
Okay.
So yeah.
we migrated all those years onto the QuickBooks on the cloud. And so for the first time, all our data that we're so proud of is preserved and it's backed up nightly in the cloud. So those 2 changes have been made. The plan all along was then the next step would be to enhance our month-end reports. The district has done a remarkably good job of issuing financial reports every month. This update is not a critique of what's been done in the past. In fact, it only builds upon it. When I first joined the district and I looked at the month-end reports, my thought was, these are really good. They're good because they give you summary, they give you detail, they give you full transparency. In many ways, they provide data, much more data that I've seen in other locations. So my hat's off to the month-end reports. But what we did do is we took this opportunity to enhance them. In particular, we did 3 things. One is we thought we would add an executive summary. And we'd add an executive summary to the front of it in graphical format. That's one change that we made. The other is we looked at report titles and the order of the reports and made those hopefully a little bit more user-friendly from a public standpoint. And then we took the opportunity to possibly eliminate a report that we didn't find being as useful as well, and reordering the line items so they were categorized properly. So with that, I'll give you a quick tour. This is what you're seeing on the front page right now is what you're very familiar with. There were 8 reports in the past. There's 8 reports now. One has been swapped out, if you will. I can tell you conclusively, the content has not been lost at all. It's exactly the same, just reformatted. The next page, we're very, very proud of. Hopefully this is meaningful to you and to the public. We thought, on this one page, let's try to summarize everything that you see in the financial reports, but put it in graphical format. So very clearly, the top bar chart we call the budget speedometer. In other words, we're at 25% of the year now. Where are we in terms of percent, in terms of actual expenditures? Well, if we're at 25% at the end of the year and we're at 14% now, we have that 10%. We're in the black, if you will. But we also do 2 other things. To the right of that, we said, well, where were we last year? And where were we over the last 4 years? So now these metrics are starting to come alive, because you can see now if you see a 25% there or 26% there or 19% there, you're going to ask what happened. What happened? Keep in mind, as we morph these numbers and we get our more systems and policies in place, these things will equalize. But That shows you right there on this very first slide. Wow, there's a consistency between the last 5 years of reports. The next bar chart down is budget to actual. That is exactly what it sounds like. We have a $22.167 million budget in 25-26. We spent year to date $3 million, and we have 19,161 left. So it's also letting you know what your capacity is right now. Now, one of the factors, one of the characteristics of our type of agency and many agencies, some expenditures are very constant, and many are very, very seasonal and dependent upon operations. But this will never lie, though. The year-to-date budget to actual will never lie. It'll tell you what you estimated, where you are as of this month, and what's remaining. Below, we thought we'd then give you a sense of, in the bar chart below, we thought you'd give you a sense of by category, where we are this year, where we were last year, and how it's changed. We'll probably morph this a little bit more. We'll start building in some further averages, but this is a really good way to compare same month last year, which you would think should be consistent. They aren't always, especially when it comes to projects like evacuation routes and things of that nature. But nonetheless, over time, as these metrics over time start to percolate, you'll see a consistency. So that's the vision here. Below, we're excited about this too. It's not lost on staff that the big news in the room is projects and programs. So we thought, let's put projects and programs right on the front page. What did we budget? What have we spent year to date? What's left? And what's the percentage of budget spent relative to the percentage of the year? This will also evolve over time as well. So we're really proud of this summary sheet. It will change. This is phase one of enhancing these financial reports. But we thought the goal was 1 page, quick message, be able to read it quickly and give a report card quickly without having to look at all the lines and lines of detail. But having said that, we didn't lose the detail. So if you scroll through just slowly, Corey, all the other reports are the same. What we did do, if you don't mind, I got rid of pennies. Because when we show pennies on such a big report, it just kind of, it loses something. So it's rounded to the nearest dollars as well. But the report format is the same, except for we had to put our logo on there and just kind of spruce it up a little bit as well. And keep on going, Corey. Let's see what else we find. Let's go to this is the report by month. So this will show you what we spent this actual month. And nothing's changed here. The same exact reports you received in the past. But it also shows you this month, and it also shows you year to date. So you can get a sense for it. And I can guarantee you, because we reconciled, you can take the totals on each report and they tie to each other in unison. So they're all reconciled to each other. And let's go to the budget to actual real quickly, Corey. Yes. And this is the budget to actual. It's the same thing that the bar chart showed, but of course you're seeing detail because transparency is key. So we want the public to see every single line item, and that's what you are seeing. And over time, what you'll see is if you look at the percentages on the right, over time what you'll see is you'll start getting used to looking at what percentage of the year we are at and what percentage of the budget are we at. We'll start enhancing that. But for instance, if you take something like go down to contract services where fire is, you'll see if you look at contract services and one below, keep on going, one more down, Corey, that whole category won't make sense. It's at 23, 24% because it's a constant payment to Central Fire. Others will not be as consistent as well. Lastly, well, what else did we do is we did eliminate one report. We had a monthly budget to monthly budget comparison. And we believe that report was very misleading in many ways because there's no way to pin down seasonality where you can take 1 month and take 1/12 of the budget and compare it to the prior month because many invoices are not 1/12 of the budget and they don't come in that way. So we think showing year to date to actual is much more meaningful. And then as we provide prior year and 4-year averages, we think that'll even become much more meaningful as well. That's it on the standard reports. We also, you may notice on tonight's report, you don't have a disbursements report. We would have a a month-end financial report, which is this one, and we would have a separate disbursements report. And we looked into the history of that. And apparently at one time, these disbursements reports, which were being brought to the commission before you had the delegation of authority to the general manager in terms of issuing checks. But the tradition kept on going. And so what the financial consultant was doing was giving you not only the month-end disbursements for the month, but also giving you checks written from the first of the upcoming month to the date of the commission meeting. So it's kind of a stub period. So what you have now, if you look at the vendor summary report at the very end, you have the full month of all disbursements issued, which ties to the financial statements. The previous report, even though it had integrity, didn't tie to anything. It was just, okay, as of this day, run the report, and that's the stub period or the month.
Right.
So we feel what we did is we eliminated duplicity, duplicating work for really no reason, and giving you a report that represents the sum total of all disbursements within that particular period of reporting. So with that, we would really like not only this evening, but even the future comments on this report. If there's more that you want or that you need, we're going to keep on enhancing it. But we're really proud of having issued this. It will now go back to consent after this tonight's meeting, but we look forward to your comments as well. The other dream we have is last budget year, we put in money into the budget for what we call the transparency portal. We haven't forgotten that dream. What we eventually will do is data like this, we're thinking will be on a web page that's available to all the public. They can see all these numbers. They can cut and craft them any way they want, again, to further the full transparency. We're not there yet. It'll take a few months to get there, but that's the ultimate vision of full transparency in terms of financial data.
Great. Any comments and thoughts here? Yep.
Russ, I had a question about the disbursements report because I wasn't quite clear what we were not including, or I just do recall there's a governmental requirement, and I believe the town got dinged for not having a published disbursement report. Does any of this sound familiar at all?
Well, you should know disbursements, and the disbursements are reported on the month-end report. Now, some cities have a requirement that they go to the commission before they issue checks, but that's not the case here. That's not the case.
I don't think that was what it was. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. My other comment, I think it was page 3. You showed your bar charts and you used a log scale.
Oh.
Which I thought was very clever. I'm not sure everybody relates to it, but I liked it.
Well, thank you, because it's the only way. It's the only way I could get the scales to work so that the bars were visible. Yes, thank you so much.
So can I answer,
Please.
Commissioner? There is a report, the expenses transaction detail by account, and it lists every single every single transaction. So it is a full list of all of the expenditures. Yeah.
Yes. The only difference, as I understand, is that instead of getting this whole month, everything lines up here. We were getting a preview of partial disbursements per month. It really wasn't much helpful because we're going to get all those things next month fully closed with the month and all the totals. So it's a much more comprehensible summation in my mind. But anything else?
That's it.
Public comments?
Thank you. Could you bring up the first page of the new report, please? It's interesting that you noticed the logarithmic part of the chart. I looked at the logarithmic part of the chart as well. The amusing thing about it, though, is that the purpose of having bars is to try to provide relative scale. And if you go over to the second to the last set of bars, the two bars at the top are talking about something that's near to 1,000. But the bar next to it is talking to something about, what's the number say, 25 or something like that? And so that bar looks half as tall as the bar next to it. And so the whole concept of a bar chart using a logarithmic scale, in my opinion, is very misleading. I don't consider the rest of the report to be an enhancement. First, the thing that I'd like to point out is the district used to provide monthly budget figures and tracked actual expenditures against monthly budgets. The purpose of these reports is to eliminate that tracking capability. So it reduces the amount of information that's available to the public, not increasing the amount of information that's available to the public. Now, I recognize that 75% of the district's expenditures are probably ratable through the year. Certainly payroll is, and certainly the fire department is. So with regards to that aspect, I guess there's no difference. If you go to the bottom of the report, please, Corey.
You mean
Excuse
this
me, bottom of
page?
this page, thank you. I think it's a great improvement to bring to the commissioner's attention this part of the chart. And the reason I say that is that almost all of the variance between budget and actual happens right here on that part of the chart. Because the payroll is almost dead on, assuming you have everybody on the payroll. And the fire department is under contract. So there's no variation under the fire contract. So 75% of the budget, you should see almost no variation on. So this remaining 25% is where all the discrepancy or differences take place. But eliminating the monthly figures for these also eliminates the planning for these projects. So all you're going to get is tracking relative to the total amount for the year. You're not going to get tracking relative to what should have been spent the time on trying to figure out when these projects are going to take place and how much they're going to cost. So I think changing the policy will help with regards to some things in terms of making it simpler. You don't have to do monthly budgets, but it will eliminate your ability to track the progress on the part of the budget that is really the essence of what has been added to this organization over time. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Okay, moving on to item 11. We're going to see I think more of Mr. Morale, I think, for the website project update.
Feel as though I've been up here too much today. No, just an oral.
This is your last one.
Just an oral report on this one. Yes, we have worked with County Council and we have the clear go-ahead to start introducing website vendors to give presentations as a fact-gathering process. It's not a solicitation in any way, and there's no pretense of solicitation, but we now want to invite in some vendors that are specifically specialized in municipal government, and we'll have a core team of staff they'll give presentations to, just to get a sense for what's out there, what the needs are, and then we'll move on to working with County Council as to how we would model that solicitation. So you'll see internally, there'll be discussions and presentations made over the next 30 to 60 days. And then hopefully we'll start talking about a solicitation process early next year to get that going. So the ball is rolling now with the possibility of a new website. And we can tell you, in my discussion with General Manager at Logan, we will keep you keenly abreast of what's happening with the website. In fact, we're going to want input from you as those thoughts proceed forward as well. So there'll be a lot of discussion on this as it starts.
Okay.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Any questions or comments? Wouldn't expect any, but okay. Thank you we appreciate the updates. Moving on to item 12, personnel. General Manager Logan.
Could you turn the mic on? Sorry.
Mike.
Thank you. Agenda item 12A and 12B are to discuss and consider action for two proposed employment agreement amendments. California Government Code Section 54953C3 requires the Commission to orally report a summary of the proposed compensation changes before taking final action to adopt that compensation, hereby approving the employment agreements. Key components of the proposed compensation are described in detail in the proposed employment agreement amendments included in the agenda packet. I will now summarize Personnel item 12A. The proposed second amendment to the full-time hourly project specialist risk reduction employment agreement includes the following changes. Wages effective December 1st, 2025 sets the rate of pay at $83.20 per hour, up to 40 hours per week. All other compensation and benefit remain unchanged. I recommend approval of this item.
Thank you. Any clarifying questions? Seeing none, I would entertain a motion in a second.
Warren moves to approve 12A.
Thank you. Any discussion? Any public comments? Let's vote.
President Spreen,
Yes.
Vice President
Yes.
McDonald,
Yes.
okay, Commissioner Kadambi,
Yes.
Commissioner Tonka,
Yes.
Commissioner Tyson,
Yes.
Commissioner Warren.
Yes.
Right, the motion passes 6-0 with one absent.
Thank you. Item 12B.
Yes, I will now summarize personnel item 12B. The proposed second amendment to the part-time hourly administrative specialist employment agreement includes the following changes. Wages effective December 1st, 2026, or 2025, excuse me, sets the rate of pay at $88.40 per hour, up to an average of 32 hours per week. All other compensation and benefits remain unchanged. I recommend approval of this item.
Thank you. Any questions? Seeing none. Any public comments? Seeing none. Let's vote. Oh, motion in a second.
Tyson moves 12B ahead of Commissioner McDonald.
McDonald seconds.
Thank you. Let's go ahead and take a vote.
Okay, President Spreen,
Yes.
Vice President McDonald,
Yes.
Commissioner Kadambi,
Yes.
Commissioner Tonka,
Yes.
Commissioner Tyson,
Yes.
Commissioner Warren.
Yes.
Okay, and the
Excellent.
motion
Thank
passes
you.
6-0, one absent.
Thank you. Moving on to item 13, commission member reports. Item 13A is to inform us again that one commissioner term will be expiring on 12/31/25. District Clerk Vargas, if you could provide us the report.
Yes, okay. A vacancy will be advertised in the Los Altos Town Crier. Interested residents of the Los Altos Hills County Fire District are required to submit an electronic application to the Office of the Clerk of the Board of Supervisors using the website link to the Santa Clara County portal provided on the agenda. Santa Clara County District 5 Supervisor Margaret Abekoga makes the appointment nomination, which is then considered for approval by the County Board of Supervisors.
Thank you very much. Any discussion? Nope. Any public comments? Seeing none. We'll move on to item 13B, which is future agenda items. This is an opportunity for commissioners to provide reports on any future agenda topics. Any comments or questions? I know we've had one sort of thrown in already, which we've taken note of. I don't see any others. Any public comments on that? Seeing noted. Thank you. Let's see. Moving on to item 14, closed session. The commission will now adjourn to a closed session for a conference with labor negotiators pursuant to Government Code Section 54957.6. Before we join the closed session, is there any public comment on this item? Seeing none. Great. In that case, the commissioners, us, Consultant Scott, and Deputy County Counsel Forbath will now adjourn to closed session. I assume in the room here?
In the back room, yeah.
Okay, upon completion of the closed session, we will return to open session and announce any reportable action and then adjourn the meeting. Let's see, if Deputy County Counsel Forbath, if you'll log out of this public meeting and log into the closed session meeting using the link sent to you by Consultant Scott. And when the closed session is completed, you can reverse it and come back into this one. Staff members of the public and other attendees are not required to remain in the meeting during the closed session and may log out at this time. However, you're welcome to remain if you choose. District Clerk Vargas, please note for the record, the time is 8:28 p.m. Please pause the recording.
Okay, before I log out real quick, we did jump over number 13C just to announce the next meeting.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Will be, that's okay. Next meeting, November 18th, 2025, in person and hybrid here at the Town Hall Council Chambers. And now we can log out.
Thank you so much. Great, thank you. Let's see. We will move to item 15, return to open session. District Clerk Vargas, please note for the record, the time is 8:50 p.m. Please conduct the roll call.
President Spreen.
Here.
Vice President McDonald.
Here.
Commissioner Kadambi.
Yes.
Commissioner Tonka.
Yeah.
Commissioner Tyson.
Yes.
Commissioner Warren.
Yes.
Okay, we have 6 commissioners present.
Thank you. And I will announce that there are no reportable actions from the closed session. Moving on to item 16, adjournment. This concludes the October 21st, 2025 regular meeting, Los Altos Hills County Fire District. The meeting is adjourned at 8:50 p.m. District Clerk Vargas, please stop the recording.